Well, welcome back to Andertons TV. Just before Justin leaves, I am going to subject him to our gig rig for under £1,000 challenge. So the rules are, Mr. Justin, you're on your way to a gig. What was the last big gig you did?
Last big gig?
Well, like, you know, you were pro for a bit,
yeah.
weren't you?
The last big gig I did was Wembley with Kate. Oh no, it was live, even better.
There we
Stadium
are.
In live,
Okay, so Katie Mello has got a massive gig on. Well,
okay.
It doesn't have to be a massive gig. You're on your way there.
Yeah.
Outside Andertons, the Andertons delivery van's driven into the back of your car. All your prized possessions have been written off.
Yeah.
The delivery driver has gone, I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Sandercoe, I am insured up to £1,000 though, so please run into Andertons.
Yes.
And you have 10 minutes to spend your £1,000 to get to the Katie Mello gig and do the gig.
Right.
So.
Okay.
You can spend it on whatever you like, but I assume you're going to need a guitar, an amp, and maybe some effects.
Okay, but we're not worrying about cables and stuff. The cables have been salvaged.
Exactly, the cables didn't break.
Right.
So where should we start first? And we're going to use the Andertons website here to sort of try and help narrow down your
Okie dokie. So
selections.
I would probably split it, like I'm thinking probably 60% or 70% on an amp.
Okay.
Think that the amp, most of the sound comes from the amp, and the guitar wants to be nicely playable, but less of a big deal.
Should we start with the amp and see how low you can get away with?
Let's start with an amp. So something...
Combo?
Combo, valve, reverb, probably single channel, I would have thought.
Right,
but if,
we're in.
If it had
this is...
Yeah, I'll have a
it's actually Black Friday, or it's the week of Black Friday whilst Justin's here. I suspect by the time this video comes out, some of these savings may not be available. But look, it's just as well that your gig with Katie was this week. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to filter out everything that is not in stock, because obviously that you can't.
And can we let's go from price low to high?
Oh, we're shopping low to high today.
Well, we're going to have to.
We're going to have to, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are all valve amplifiers. They're all combos, and we are shopping low to high. How loud do you think a valve amp needs to be? Because I would imagine the Katie gig you'll be miking up.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be good. I would be thinking that Marshall is looking pretty incredible.
It probably fits the bill visually as well.
Yeah,
now, I can tell you now, the Origin is really a pedal platform amp. There's no reverb in it.
No reverb
there's
even.
No,
right, okay.
there's only really drive if you crank it, so it tends to be more of a pedal amplifier.
Okay.
Something like the Bass Breaker would have a master volume and some reverb in it. I think the Rocker has reverb in it as well.
I was thinking
and now we're going to run it, you know.
Yeah. We're running well out of budget if we get any further. I said 60-70%, so we're kind of.
What was the little Laney? What are you ignoring the 15-watt ones because you're worried they're not going to be loud enough, or because a 15-watt doesn't give you the clean headroom that you might want?
Probably. I mean, 15's okay. It would depend. If it's a gig and I got in-ears anyway, like the volume really, it doesn't have to be super high. I am tempted by this as a pedal platform though, and getting the but then am I going to get reverb delay? Yeah.
Well,
and then
honestly,
there's not going to be much left for a guitar, is there?
Well, okay, let's say, so you're looking this Origin 20 here. It's a great little amplifier. Let's just click through to it. I can't remember I think it might be a 1x10 speaker, but maybe that doesn't really matter. So let's quick look at the spec. Oh my God, look at those two reprobates here. That's an old video. So what have we got? 20 watts with a 10-inch Celestion speaker.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there's no, what have we got here? We've got, no
it's
reverb.
It's got
got master volume.
Yeah.
So we can do the same with pedals, but I'm pretty sure we've got plenty of choice through Tone City and some of the cheaper Behringer and TC pedals around about the 50 quid mark. So if you said, right, I need reverb, I need delay, I need overdrive, we could do that for 150 quid. So you would still have 6, 7. You still have £300 to buy a guitar. I mean, is this? Do you want to see what we can buy?
Let's run with this to start off with. So it's 550.
550 now. What do you want to do? Do you want to try and find that reverb pedal first?
I'm curious as to what the guitars are, and then we'll. Oh, if you've clicked reverb, let's go reverb first because reverb's a big deal.
I want
to have a nice reverb.
I get accused in these of sort of guiding the guest into certain, making decisions. But there was a Tone City pedal called a Heavenly Lake. There it is. Now, didn't this have reverb and delay in it? It does. So you could have reverb and delay for £99. In fact, there's even a little bit of modulation in there, but that's on the reverb.
Okay.
That might work.
I don't know it. I haven't heard it before, but I would trust it. How much are the TC one? Just out of curiosity, the what's it called? The basic one.
There's a few different TC ones.
That's the
so
one
Sky Surfer is the cheapest one. It's only 35 quid. It's crazy, isn't it?
Hall of Fame is the one that I'm familiar with already.
That, I think you're going to run out of budget quite quickly, I think, if you end up spending £135 on your pedals. The Mini is 99. Depends how important the reverb is to you.
I am a reverbaholic, so reverb becomes a bit of a thing, and I'm assuming that I can't go into...
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to start making a shopping basket for you, but with options.
Okay.
So let's have the Hall of Fame Mini. I'll put that Origin, I'll go back and put that Origin amplifier in as well. And we'll get that Heavenly Lake pedal, but shall I just go with the absolute cheapest one here so that you can see what that sounds like as well?
Yeah, okay.
A few moments later.
Okay, so that's a reverb pedal chosen.
Okay. An amp and a reverb pedal, that's probably where that'll do.
So typically speaking, you wouldn't want a delay or a chorus. You're just going to go straight for an overdrive pedal.
I would if I've got my full pedal board, I'm definitely going to have reverb and delay. But let's start with reverb and gain.
Why don't we see what the cheapest delay pedals are? Delay pedals, here we go, into the category, and then we'll do love the whole low to high. We're always shopping low to high at the moment.
Yeah.
So, I have to spend...
Crikey.
I mean, that unfortunately, the Behringer one is out of stock here,
okay.
But, you could spend... what did I use the other day? Well, it should be
But would it be any good? Like that's where we get to. I'd rather have a few really good things than have a nice amp, a nice reverb, and a nice guitar, and a gain, rather than having extra delay if it wasn't.
Well, I know. Look, the Bucket Brigade from TC. That is a classic '80s kind of modulated digital delay with a decent sound. So let's stick one of these in.
Put it in the basket.
You never know.
Let's have a look.
So we need drive pedals.
We need a drive and a gain and a guitar.
So what is your go-to? I mean, what's your main drive pedal if you're at home?
King of Tone, which is probably not going to fit in our budget. So we're not going to do that.
No. So what is a King of Tone? What was that? That's a blues breakery type circuit, isn't it? King of Tone.
Yeah, or a blues driver, Boss blues driver.
What about just to go absolute classic?
A blues driver is a great pedal. Used one.
Now, funnily enough, the video that we just did where we were jamming blues stuff, I had the Wazza blues driver.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not outrageously expensive. So let's stick this in the basket as well. Again, if you want...
I think in the budget terms, I reckon that Marshall amp, the blues driver, a reverb and a guitar, I'm happy. To be honest.
That's simple. Okay, so we're on to electric guitars now. What style, if we can narrow a body shape style down, that would be useful?
Well, I mean, I mostly play at home my grey guitar, which is a Strat, HSS Strat. It depends on what the gig was. I play a lot of 335 as well, but a cheaper 335 is going to be harder to...
That's more difficult, isn't it? So this is a category of our website for anything that is an S-style guitar. So the first thing I'm going to do again is get rid of everything that's not in stock, and then I'm probably don't actually need to go low
PRS,
to high.
I'm like, oh no, it's
yeah. But what we can do again in the filter, we know we've got what, £200 to £300, don't we?
Yeah.
So let's show you what's in £200 to £300.
Wow.
And again, there's 59 guitars. They're all in stock.
Larry Carlton.
Yeah, you like Larry, don't you?
I love Larry.
Well, that would be a great choice.
Or a pink
You could pick a
Ibanez.
couple here
Wow.
and just, choose what you like. So you've got...
There's a lot of sires going on.
Yeah.
Solo King I'd never heard of.
Solo King, do you remember we were looking at EastCoast earlier on? So I was going to show you the Solo King thing. Whilst we're on the subject, I spoke to the EastCoast factory and I said, what if we wanted to do some more expensive EastCoast guitars, what kind of features and options? So they started talking about better components and da-da-da-da. And I was like, and then they said, but we actually have our own brand called Solo King, which is that. So I said, well, we'll try that. So these are really new in Andertons. So these are all like, again, Allen Entwistle pickups, branded Wilkinson hardware, roasted maple necks, all that kind of stuff. So it's, I haven't done the video with Pete yet, so I don't know a great deal about it, but they look decent.
I think that Larry Carlton's selling it just because it's Larry, and I love his stuff so much that I'm hoping that he wouldn't have put his name on
I would
something
get one.
that
The Sire stuff is great. It honestly, really is great. Yeah. I would certainly have one to compare.
Jackson Dinky.
That's
Wow,
yeah,
I had one of those when I was a teenager.
That's it.
Okay.
So again, choose a Larry Carlton and then choose something else to go with it. The Ibanez AZ is really good.
Let's try the Larry Carlton.
So you want a sunburst Larry Carlton?
Yeah, that'll do.
Even though it's a bit dearer than the red one? Well, let's see if we've got the budget. Oh, whatever. I might do you a deal. We did crash into the back of your car after all. And we'll have one more just as a sort of a backup.
We don't have G&Ls at this price, do we?
No, not down this low, I'm afraid.
And Ari, I could go back in time.
I was about to say, you're the same as me, right? Like when we learned to play, they were just like a powerhouse guitar
Aria Pro
brand.
2 Stagecaster. That was like...
Yeah, mainly in basses, I remember, but for sure. Doesn't seem to be anything...
Are they any good?
No,
the Arias.
Is it any good? Everything's good now, to be honest with you. I mean, in the sale.
The Ibanez doesn't seem bad either.
These are the ones that Tomo helped Ibanez design. So it was like he sort of pointed out a few things that he thought, these are maybe more of a beginner guitar than the Sire. But look, it's just got to get you through the gig, right?
Okay, let's
choose a colour. You've got dark blue, light blue, or pink?
Pink.
Pink. Every day, baby.
Yeah.
Right, I'm putting these in the basket. Let's go and look at our basket and just do a quick sense check that we can at least afford this. So, how are our maths today? $550 for an amp?
Yeah.
Then, and $250, what did we have? $250 or $300? Let's say the $279. So that's $750, $830. So we've got £170 for pedals. So you definitely want that, don't you? Yeah, so we've got about £80. I tell you what I'll do.
Would you do me the Blues Driver and the Hall of Fame?
I would. I tell you, I would do that. So we know we can put a rig together. And actually, if you really, really, if I'm really feeling tight, I'll just force you to have the Ibanez instead. Then you free up an extra 50 quid.
Okay.
Bosh! Let's order this now and get Justin to his gig. Right, we are back in the room.
After a splendid lunch.
Yes,
at
absolutely.
Your lovely
thank
pub
you.
next door to Andertons.
Yes, and thank you to Taylor and Oz for going and grabbing this shopping list. Okay, so we've got a Sire Larry Carlton S3, which has been reduced in the sale down to $279. We've got an Ibanez AZ ES40, also reduced in the sale, but now down to $249. Got to choose between those two. We've got our Origin 20 amplifier, which is going to cost you $549 today. And we don't have anything to compare this to. This was just the amp of choice. Sounded good though. And then we've got a few pedals on the floor. We've got some reverbs, delays, and an overdrive pedal. So what do you want to do first? Just narrow the guitar down maybe?
Yeah, I think, let's do the guitar first because that'll influence the sound of the pedals.
Amps on a clean setting.
It's a really, we just played with it for a few seconds when we first got back and I like the amp.
So I think we're saying there's no reverb in the amplifier. It's got a boost option on the preamp gain, but it's not like, this is not designed to be a modern amplifier. It's a throwback amplifier. So the boost is just like a slightly gainy, fatter sound.
It's like playing back to the Blues Breaker era, I think.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say as a critique of the Origin 20 with the 10-inch speaker is it doesn't naturally sound super fat. So if you want that nice bass end on there, you have to kind of achieve that by just volume. just like drive it, not preamp volume, just like, so great for gigging, perhaps not the greatest choice for people that might just want to use this at home, because I think they'd find the lack of bass end frustrating. But
I think that the bass thing, if you're at a gig, usually the front of house engineer will take off all of the bass anyway, so your bass sounds don't interfere with the sound of the bass guitar. So what you're hearing in your room wouldn't be necessarily what you'd want either on a record or at a gig. So
we've got the options on the reverb and delay pedals through the effects loop on the amplifier. It's quite cool, even for a vintage sort of inspired amp. It has an effects loop, and then we've got the blues driver through the front end. So take it away then.
So I'm going to put this Hall of Fame reverb on. So there's a bit of reverb on, but
do you need a plectrum?
Now, no. Interesting thing I just want to point out here, first of all, is that actually, if I'm trying guitars out, very often I don't even worry about the amplification for a bit, because the guitar part for me is the part I'm feeling in my hands, and the sound is mostly going to be the amp. Like the guitar does, of course, has a sound and it's going to be affected, but I'm more concerned with how it feels in my hands.
I suppose.
So before I even plug in or listen to the amplified sound. And it does fit. This guitar feels really nice. It seems really well. I mean, I can't believe you told me it was 279. 279. Yeah. It feels like a much more expensive guitar. Particularly the finish on the side of the frets here. They're like really nicely smoothed.
Do you know what? Sire have even trademark named the technique they do for fretboard edge rolling. I forget what it is. It's something like perfect edge or something like that.
It feels really good.
It's the first thing you notice on all Sire guitars is like, ooh, yeah, this feels like a played in kind of, comfy neck.
But particularly the frets, it's like plecking. It feels like a plecked guitar, which you wouldn't expect at this price point at all. And I pretty much only ever use the bridge pickup, that split or the front. I don't tend to use anything to do with the middle's obviously involved with that split position.
Yeah.
Playing wise, I really like this guitar. This is like.
So let's.
I would play that guitar quite happily.
Excellent. Then you didn't want a plectrum. I'm going to put a plectrum here just in case. So this is the Ibanez now. This is more affordable. This is fatter and louder than this one.
It is, yeah. And switch here that makes it fatter switch.
No, that's what's called the Dynamics 9 switch. It's simply off is a pretty traditional 5-way selection. On gives you different variants, so you can have these wired in series like a humbucker. You can, I mean, if people want to see that, if they dive on over to the Ibanez website. It'll show you what the settings do.
Down was normal, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's definitely nicer. Or at least bigger.
What you're listening to now is these two pickups, but as opposed to being in that type of Stratty style position, it's these two wired like a humbucker. So it's like having a neck humbucker.
Nice system.
So yeah, it's just extra positions for pickup wiring.
So the sounds are good,
which is bizarre. Is it isn't a coil tap, which is what I think everybody assumes. If you go to the humbucker, actually the guitar.
fact, it doesn't seem to do anything at all.
It doesn't do anything on that back pickup. That back position is always just the humbucker.
Got you. So sounds-wise, this is actually pretty decent. I don't like the feeling of the neck as much. Just doesn't.
It feels cheaper, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. The neck, the top rounding of that thing is really way better.
But again, this is, these are guitars that are made in their, maybe not thousands, but hundreds and hundreds. They're spitting off the end of a production line. It hasn't had necessarily the attention to detail at that final inspection that more expensive guitars have. I think that's where Sire, as a whole brand, if you look through all the guitars and basses, that's one of the things that these guys do exceptionally well. Is the final finish. Just have I got the fretting just right and the nut cut right?
But it's not even just that. There's something about the shape of it generally that's just.
Maybe that's an Ibanez thing. Is it too flat? Maybe.
No, it doesn't feel like the skinny.
Okay.
But just have a. I prefer that guitar.
Well, I was going to say it's not my guitar rig; it's your guitar rig.
And that is very. The guitar has to be a personal thing. This just feels much more. It feels wider, but
this feels
nicer.
like, and this isn't meant as a slur, although it might sound like one. This feels like a Squier first guitar neck. Ibanez might argue, but that is the price that this guitar's up against. I think it's the Sire feels better rather than the Ibanez feels worse than you'd expect. If that's or at least from my perspective.
This feels nice. I'd be happy to play this. I'm really glad. I'm a massive fan of Larry Carlton. He's a sweet guy and one of the greatest guitar players ever. And so I'm really happy that he's got his name on this as being like a nice thing. It's
people who follow the channel regularly will know that I decided to keep this Sire guitar for myself after having done some demos on it. So it's basically the S7, which is the next one up from there.
Yeah.
But I changed the pickups on it.
Right.
And it did make it was relatively easy to just find another set of pickups that added the fatness back in that I think the Sire own brand pickups perhaps naturally don't have.
So we were talking about the amp suffering from the lows,
maybe a bit of both.
Maybe a bit of because that definitely has a fuller bottom end.
I don't dislike that at all.
Exactly. I could do a little bit more of this. Hang on, there we go. There's the quiet spot.
For again, novice people aren't watching. All right. It's amazing. Okay, so the transformer in an amplifier, and it's generally worse than a valve amplifier, has emits a magnetic field around it. Obviously, you can't see it. It's just there. And electromagnetic, single coil pickups are essentially magnets and create their own electromagnetic. That's what they're picking up. And it's crazy. If you sit very close to a valve amplifier...
now, I'm going to put the dirt on, so that makes it even more extreme. But
when I say very close, I mean how you might sit when you're practicing. A lot of that noise is just the magnetic field. And you can change... There you go. Even the plane, like the axis or the plane or whatever that you move the guitar in, all of a sudden the noise will go away and you'll be like, oh, that's weird. So if you've got that noise at home and you're going, oh, it's really, really annoying, something must be faulty. If you just walk away from your guitar amp, and normally once you're 3 or 4 meters away, it will completely disappear.
But that's pretty pronounced.
There's nothing you can do about that other than look at guitars that have noiseless pickups in them.
Listen to the difference.
It's huge.
And
it's no rhyme or reason for that because you're actually moving closer. It's all to do with, the magnetic fields and things, but anyway, so if you have that problem at home with your guitar and amplifier, it's not a faulty setup. You just have to sit further away. It
seems to change with the pickup even though as well. So even like I just moved from one pickup scene to the other, and it changed.
Yeah.
Weird. got a really nice.
It's the intonation's great. The clarity is great.
Exactly.
I mean, I sometimes think that this perceived lack of bass end, you could put that on its head and go, well, is it clearer? And maybe it is.
I really like it. I like the. Yeah.
I'm telling you now, man, mic'd up, you could do that Katie Melua gig.
Duh, I could do any gig with it.
No one is going to sit and go, oh yeah, Justin's brought his crappy guitar tonight.
No,
it's like...
Absolutely. And this combination, we haven't even touched gain yet. So I'm just on the Hall of Fame.
Let's just quickly try the other reverb pedals. So we can go much cheaper than the Hall of Fame with the one on its left.
Yeah.
So Sky Surfer, is it
Sky
called?
Surfer thing, yeah.
That's too clanky, isn't it? Or whatever the word is.
I don't know what the word is. It's not really my...
No, why is...
That's on the plate setting as well.
Could you... Is it too much mix and not enough decay? I mean, it is a reverb, and it is unbelievably cheap, but maybe that's its only two things nice we can say. I think with less mix, that's usable.
Yeah.
I think it's...
It's like when you turn the mix down, though, you're left with just the bad bit. I'm not getting like... Yeah, I'm not massively feeling that. And that's just gone from like...
It goes from not enough. It goes from not enough to too much. In a hardly. So you
in a
all right,
1 hour.
So forget that one then.
Sorry,
and then we've got the reverb side of the tone.
It's got a funny that's modulation thing afterwards.
Well, that you can turn off. So we can just turn that off. It's got a clangy, springy type reverb effect. You've got to really want that vintage clangy.
It'd be okay if we'd.
But you want probably like a.
Whatever.
See, would you traditionally, if you were using a digital reverb, would you go for plate rather than spring?
Probably plate over spring. If I'm going to use a spring, I tend to use an actual spring reverb. Yeah, okay. But that's we're not talking about a budget
so let's
thing.
stay with the Hall of Fame. What we aren't doing in this video, and what we absolutely could do relatively quickly, is download the Tone Print app onto our phone, which is free from TC. And again, if you want to see something crazy, when this came out, it was so cutting edge technology, and now it feels a bit like ZX Spectrum.
Yeah.
But yes, you get the Tone Print app. You would choose a different, perhaps you might want a spring reverb or a plate or a hall or whatever you might want, a modulated reverb. As long as there's a Tone Print version of it, you press download on your amp, you hold your mobile phone to the pickup with the volume up.
Yeah.
The pickup, you hear the phone going like an old cassette loading.
No, like a dial-up modem.
Exactly like that for about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it downloads a different reverb algorithm into the pedal. So it's kind of clever.
So my question will be, I know there's a bigger Hall of Fame reverb,
Yes.
and if I'm on a gig after having just crashed my car, I'm going to be stressed enough as it is without downloading an app, and then on stage trying to muck around at sound check.
Can you imagine in
between songs?
What would the MD think? Hang on a second whilst I just
change my
another reverb patch. Yeah, I think you're not getting that gig again, are you?
Can I afford to go up to the bigger one?
Well, look, I'm feeling guilty that it was the Andertons delivery driver that crashed into you, and I'm pretty sure we've got the bigger one
here somewhere.
over the back here. There it is.
Yeah,
Okay,
this,
so you've
this
now
has got loads
yeah,
of
so
stuff.
you've got all the classic kind of TC options here. I can't remember myself now, but so room, hall, spring, plate, church, shimmer, modulated, lo-fi, plus you can now elect to have up to 3 tone prints stored in it. So it's the same kind of family of reverbs with this. So I wouldn't expect it to necessarily be better than this, but it's faster and easier to get more types of reverb.
Yes. And I did muck around with one of these a long time ago and liked it. Yeah, I like this.
It's a
little bit
great,
too
I mean,
much.
of all the affordable, I say affordable, this is probably more mid-price, isn't it, I suppose, but it's, of all the sort of the non-Strymon-y type reverbs, Hall of
Yes.
Fame is kind of like, it's the most popular one for sure.
I like. And there's definitely something that this has got that's not, even with a, I don't know if that was a plate or not, I guess it was either a plate or a hall, but this is, it just sounds to me better. There's this other long setting which seems to make it.
I'm pretty
gives a
sure
little
you
bit
can
jazz.
do, if you find the right tone print on the smaller one. It's just a
Yes.
question if you can't be
Okay.
bothered with all that. Apart from the bigger one is stereo, which the smaller one can never
Okay.
be.
I mean, we're
but
not running
using
in
that yet.
stereo. So
I don't think you can afford the delay now, but just out of interest, what kind of ambient sounds can you get if we did allow the delay?
So we got the bucket delay. Yeah, no, I was fiddling with it anyway.
So that's a classic kind of 80s modulated delay. I think there's a switch to turn the modulation off, which I just did.
I mean, I like it. I like a bit of delay, but only if I'm playing on my own. Most of the time I would only use delay in a lead thing, really low level, just
a
kind of
fat
fill
net
it
bit.
exactly.
Yeah,
so if
so you could live without it, but you don't mind it. I've got to say, for these clean sounds, and again, you don't automatically associate Marshall with great clean sounds, but actually, I think this is sounding really good.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to go out with this. This is, and what's funny is I'm mostly not playing with real amps at home. To be honest, in the studio I tend to use either the Kemper or more recently the Quad Cortex, and I find the sounds for that great most of the time. I tend to, if I'm doing really creative stuff like my own records or the records with We Came as Strangers, I tend to use an amp, just because what I'm looking for is that mistake, that happy accident where I plug something in funny or it doesn't quite work. Just like we had the pre-delay things set funny on the TC, and it made something that was a bit different that I wasn't anticipating. And I tend to get those happy accidents more with the amp. I tend to use this Tone King Imperial with the aux box, and then like weird like Chase Bliss stuff in the front of it, things that are going to make
what was the
funny sounds.
Bought the very popular pedal, again, didn't go through retail. Was it the Mood? Or
yes,
something?
that's exactly an example.
And basically,
of
it's a pedal that whatever setting you set it to, it'll do something random.
Yes.
And it was almost like that was the joy of it. You didn't really know what it was going to do.
Exactly. And it forced you to make commitments too. So you, like when you're recording, instead of going, oh, I'll fix this later, I'll change this effect later, you're going like, I've just got this sound, I need to record it like now or it won't be the same. So it's
amazing. All right, well look, so You've only got one drive pedal. We've gone blues
Yes.
driver here. It's like it's almost everybody's favourite drive pedal. In
Yeah.
that. So
Well,
does it work with this? It's a little bit bright, isn't it? Maybe.
But the tone's right down, so I kind of feeling like.
Well, we can go a little bit more down, maybe. It didn't need much of a tweak. So what did you do? You took a little bit of treble off?
I took treble and mids down.
Yeah.
But this is not an uncommon Marshall clean thing, I gather, like turning the treble and the mids down, the bass up.
It's I think Marshall suffer slightly from the fact that all their tone stacks are gigging, there's a lot of that, that in isolation is unpleasant. But actually, in a gig, bigger room with the band is exactly what you want.
That real cutty thing, because when you're doing your solo, you want it to be heard. You don't want to be going, is he doing a solo?
Yeah.
You know.
But that I think Marshall, I was going to say suffer from that, but I'm not sure that's the right terminology. But it's almost like the Marshalls are designed to gig at a certain volume. And I think often you play at home, people will buy amps to play at, and you're just like, oh, blimey, that's a bit, but that's because...
It's too pokey.
Yeah, but that's because it's like, as soon as you're in a bigger room, a bit more volume, with a band, it's like, that's why you can hear people playing Marshall amps on stage.
But again, valve amps generally want to be driven more to get them sounding good anyway, hence using like the Tone King Imperial with the attenuator built in, or using the aux box or whatever, some sort of attenuation so you can... give it a bit of welly without having to. But this, I like that.
You have to be a bit careful, I think, when you start using the drive, not to have too much reverb, otherwise it all goes a bit overwhelming. But
yeah. Yeah, I definitely had reverb settings for like ambient playing on my own sort of. I think this, that, and that is a really nice rig.
Yeah,
I would be super happy with that.
That's £1,053. So how much are you getting paid for the Katie Minowa gig?
150 quid.
150. So that's fine. So if you drop the other 50 back in on the way home, you still got 100 quid. Everybody's a winner. No, that's brilliant. Look, do you know what I'd quite like the people watching this to do? Because this must be the... I don't know, must have done somewhere between 5 and 10 of these rig for under £1,000 with different guests we've had. I'd quite like a sort of which one have you preferred the most? Most guitar players have gone for a valve amplifier and a guitar and some simple pedals. John Connon went for a multi-effects board into a FR cab, and then so he went a slightly different way.
Wow.
But no two players have chosen an identical rig, so it'd be interesting to see who, what we like. But I've got to say, I mean, look, keeping it simple is appealing, but I don't know, it's a great combination. These two things here, this is a lot of guitar for the money.
This feels much, much more expensive. The feeling of it, and as I said, like for me, most of the tone is going to come from the amp and the pedals. Of course, the guitar and the pickups has an influence on it, but most important for me is what the guitar feels like, because that's my connection with it.
Yeah.
So the fact that this has played nice on a budget, and then I've been able to get a good valvey thing with that.
Yeah. Well, I'll put links below. The guitar is a Sire S3, comes in several different colours. The amp is the Origin 20. And yes, we've got a TC Hall of Fame reverb and a Boss Blues Driver overdrive.
Fantastic combo. Thanks, man.
No, thank you for watching. See you next time. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.